The island of Zirku lies 140 kilometers to the northwest of Abu Dhabi City and is an important oil facility, as well as being a treasure chest for some of Abu Dhabi's most important natural resources, its coastal and marine habitats and wildlife. The island is characterized by rugged mountains in the interior, intersected with wadi systems that have eroded with the forces of water and wind the mountains, revealing a treasure of geological features. The geology of Zirku Island is of great interest because it provides an outdoor classroom for geologists interested in the development of salt domes and associated oil and gas deposits, and also exhibits evidence of the island's turbulent geological history, where mineral deposits have been uplifted and folded and even upturned, revealing an array of exposed layers of various geological composition and discrete outcrops of harder resilient materials that are more resistant to the forces of nature. Despite their harsh appearance, the rocks on Zirku Island are home to a number of different species of wildlife, including reptiles such as the short-nosed Messalina, and birds such as palm doves that forage amongst the alluvial debris. These same rocks are utilized by plants, which are adapted to grow in these harsh conditions. One such species is Capparis spinosa, which is the original form of the cultivated, highly desirable caper. The palatable Capparis survives on the island because there is no grazing pressure, and elsewhere in Arabia this plant is very rare as it is susceptible to heavy grazing by goats. As the interior of the island erodes, the finer materials eventually end up as sediment on the beaches of the island. The relentless pounding of the sea further agitates this material, which in turn assists with the overall erosion of the island's coastline. Seabirds frequent these fragmented shores as these areas provide sheltered roosting habitat, and the coastal rock pools and shallow waters are rich areas in which to forage. And these areas are frequented by an array of shorebird species, including white-checked tern, Socotra cormorant, and gray heron. Top of the food chain predators, such as the fish-eating osprey, are present all year in these rich coastal habitats. Other migratory species, such as sooty gulls, also commonly utilize these productive coastal areas. The sparse precipitation that is gathered on the hills and then funneled down the wadi systems enables dense vegetation to establish along the coastline, and this provides seabirds, such as terns, with ample and secluded nesting habitat. The bridled terns and white-cheeked terns arrive on Zirku Island each June to nest, and the birds utilize the same locations on the west coast of the island year after year. This nesting area is now protected from human disturbance by a large oil pipeline that prevents vehicle access to the birds' nesting sites. The bridled terns lay only one egg within the coastal wadi systems and incubate them in summer temperatures of up to 50 degrees centigrade. Most of the adult tern's effort is exerted in trying to keep the eggs cool. It is critical that the eggs are not left exposed to the sun for prolonged periods, as this would result in the eggs overheating, killing the developing chicks. It is therefore imperative that human disturbance is kept to a minimum during the hottest period of the day throughout the summer breeding season, and the position of the oil pipeline now assists in significantly reducing vehicle disturbance during this time. The tern chicks eventually hatch, and the next generation of Zirku white-cheeked terns emerges. Bird breeding and chick hatching success is monitored each year by the environmental research staff of the Emirates Heritage Club, who work in partnership with the Health, Safety, and Environment Department of the Zirku Oil Company to develop environmental management strategies and to raise environmental awareness amongst the island's staff. The researchers record species present, nest numbers, eggs laid, and hatchling success. This annual monitoring assists the Zirku Oil Company to manage the nesting sites and to develop long-term conservation strategies to ensure that their oil operations do not impact on bird breeding, and that impediments to the successful breeding of the birds, such as ground predators and human disturbance, is managed. Soon after the tern chicks hatch, they start to explore their nesting habitat. And due to the lack of ground predators, such as cats, on Zirku Island, the tern chicks can generally wander from the nest site without serious risk, although if detected by an observer, they soon commence natural predator avoidance behavior by remaining motionless and using camouflage so they easily blend into the surrounding area. If a chick wanders too far from its nest location, a concerned parent will come to its aid, and both parent and chick are eventually reunited. The large oil pipeline running down the west coast of the island not only provides an effective barrier against human disturbance, but also provides a roosting and lookout position for nesting seabirds. And during the hottest part of the day, sooty gulls frequent the pipeline, taking advantage of the shade. The bird nesting habitats on the island have been declared as protected areas by the Zirku Oil Company, and the bird life has taken full advantage of this protection and forage and breed in high densities within these protected areas. Osprey also frequent these protected areas because they provide a quiet area with minimal disturbance to fish and roost. The ospreys traditionally nested on the ground around the island, developing large mounds of debris that was collected along the seashore and from amongst the island's vegetation. These ground nests were used by generation after generation of osprey. In recent years, with the habitation of most offshore islands, traditional osprey nests have mostly been abandoned, and instead, ospreys are using elevated, perched nesting sites above human disturbance. On Zirku Island, the osprey are being encouraged to move some nesting locations because their traditional nest sites occur adjacent to the island's airport. The HSE department of the Zirku Oil Company are attempting translocation of the osprey's nesting sites away from the airport to remote sites by developing artificial nesting platforms. The platforms provide optimal osprey nesting sites, and soon after their development, the ospreys took great interest in the structures, and have since begun to feed and roost on the structures. Bird hides have also been erected adjacent to the nesting platforms in order to monitor osprey nesting behavior. And ZADCO local staff have been trained to monitor the osprey's breeding behavior. It is envisaged that the ospreys will set up permanent nest sites and territories at the artificial nesting platforms, and therefore will reduce any risk of bird collision at the airport. The osprey story is just one of many environmental management success stories on Zirku Island. During the spring evenings, environmental researchers working in partnership with the HSE department of the ZADCO Oil Company circumnavigate Zirku Island in search of fresh turtle tracks on the beaches. The turtle tracks lead the researchers to turtle nests that have been recently deposited in the back dune area of the beach by female hawksbill turtles that come to the island each year to lay their eggs. When a new hawksbill turtle nest is located, the researchers carefully uncover the eggs and count them. Most nesting females will lay between 47 to 91 eggs during each nesting visit, and will usually revisit the nesting beach over consecutive nights. Valuable scientific data is then collected from the nest site, including the depth at which the eggs were deposited, the weight of individual eggs, and the nest temperature. This information helps the researchers determine the optimal incubation conditions and the overall incubation success rate for Zirku Island. This collective data provides an insight into the contribution of Zirku Island to overall turtle productivity in the Arabian Gulf region, and to date, the data is indicating that Zirku Island is a regionally important hawksbill turtle nesting site, having the highest nesting density of this species in the southern portion of the Arabian Gulf. As part of the turtle research conducted on the island, long-term monitoring of nest profiles is undertaken, and data on temperatures and relative humidity is systematically collected using data loggers placed at various depths in the nest. Microclimatic factors actually determine incubation rate and success, and temperature of the nest will determine hatchling sex. A cool nest will produce all males, and a warm nest will produce only females. As global temperatures rise, the impact on turtle populations could be dramatic, with increasing numbers of females hatching, and eventually, beach nest temperatures exceeding all incubation thresholds. Because of its extreme climatic conditions, the southern Gulf may provide a valuable example of how turtles cope with rising global temperatures, and data collected on the beaches of Zirku Island may actually predict what may happen in the rest of the turtle's nesting range. As part of environmental monitoring, light pollution from the island is regularly recorded along turtle nesting beaches. Bright lights can disturb nesting female turtles, and they also attract turtle hatchlings, resulting in them traveling inland away from the sea. Around 50 to 60 days after the female turtle lays her eggs, the hatchlings begin to emerge. The hatchlings use an energy store in a yolk sac to enable them to swim up through the sand. The temperature of the sand is a cue for the hatchlings, and during the evenings, the cooler sand temperatures provide a positive cue for the hatchlings to attempt to leave the nest. These are the first shots of the baby turtles emerging from the sand ever taken on the Abu Dhabi offshore islands. hatchlings immediately orientate themselves towards the sea, and this is determined by the lighter horizon of the sea as compared to that of the land. This orientation has worked wonderfully for millions of years, until the advent of the electric light. Bright lights land side of turtle beaches are now a major factor that leads to hatchling mortality, because the hatchlings mistake the electric glow of the lights for the sea and travel inland towards the light. If undisturbed, hatchlings, upon reaching the shoreline and the incoming waves, will swim as fast as possible out from the shore to deeper water, where the chance of predation is significantly reduced. Zirku Island has many suitable remote and undisturbed turtle nesting beaches that are adjacent to deep waters that facilitate both ease of nesting and hatchling dispersal. Similar to the birds, the turtle beaches on Zirku Island are also protected from vehicle disturbance by the position of the oil pipeline. In order to develop awareness about turtles and their nest sites on Zirku Island, the environmental researchers from the Emirates Heritage Club, in partnership with the HSE department of the Zadko Oil Company, conduct field training and awareness programs on the island. This helps to ensure participation in the conservation of the turtles and their important nesting sites by all staff on the island. The island management are dedicated to the long-term conservation of the island's nesting turtle population. And to conserve Zirku's nesting population of turtles requires protecting the island's natural undisturbed beaches in their entirety for all time. In order to increase biological diversity on the island, environmental researchers in partnership with the HSE department of the Zadko Oil Company and the island management have been planting local mangrove at suitable sites around the island for many years. These planted habitats have flourished and have become sustainable ecosystems, being watered daily by the tides and providing a rich intertidal ecosystem that previously was not present on the island. These mangrove communities are now self-propagating, producing flowers and seedlings each year. The mangroves now provide important shelter and foraging habitats for migratory birds and insects as they pass through the island. Each year, environmental researchers, in partnership with the HSE department of the Zadko Oil Company and the island management, germinate and plant hundreds of mangrove seedlings at suitable locations around the island. The project reuses waste pipe as wave barriers so as to allow the young seedlings to become established along the shoreline. The annual Mangrove Plantation has become a popular event amongst the island's staff, and this assists in developing awareness of the importance of mangroves in the environment, as well as instilling a sense of ownership with the staff towards their mangroves. The mangrove story is just one of many environmental management success stories on Zirku Island. And the mangroves are not the only plants germinated on the island. Zirku has an established plant nursery, boasting a number of exotic landscaping species, with an array of flowering and fruiting trees and shrubs. Some species, like the olive, grow very well in Zirku's dry marine climate. Irrigation waters consist of 100% recycled wastewater. The island has an extensive and efficient sewerage treatment works positioned on top of the mountains within the central area of the island. The sewerage treatment works is maintained and cleaned regularly to ensure that the island's life-supporting irrigation water is properly treated and is safe for distribution around the island. This high vantage point of the treatment works facilitates gravity water feed to all landscaped locations around the entire island. This treated, recycled water provides life for the island and results in Zirku Island being an oasis for migratory birds, with the irrigation resulting in an abundance of flowers and fruits. However, the birds are not the only ones to enjoy the fruits of the irrigation. The human population also enjoys the green and pleasant landscapes provided by recycling wastewater. And the staff residential areas are being transformed into green, pleasant places to live for all the island residents. Throughout the island, varied irrigated landscapes are blended with murals depicting traditional life in the UAE and special water features reminding the residents and visitors of the cultural heritage of the country. In fact, the island's irrigated landscapes are a fine example of the country's efforts to transform a desert environment into a productive oasis. And the man responsible for this transformation, the late President, His Highness Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan, is honored by the Zadco Oil Company's staff through the planting of the Zayed tree in living memory of Sheikh Zayed's environmental achievements. Respect for the environment continues, and huge effort is exerted by Zadco to keep the island's coast clean of debris that, if unchecked, could otherwise pollute bird feeding areas and impede turtle nesting and hatchling dispersal. ZADCO management is aware of the environmental issues facing the island, and every effort is being undertaken to ensure that both the oil operations and the natural environment can exist together. For example, distressed young turtles that wash ashore are nursed back to health on the island and eventually released back to the sea. And this helps to create awareness amongst the island management and staff of the importance of the marine turtles and the necessity of a clean, pollution-free marine environment. Zirku Island has an abundance of rich coastal habitats and marine life. These habitats include coral reefs, and the waters are home to a range of marine species including many fish and graceful marine mammals, such as dolphin. The continuation of these habitats and wildlife relies on pollution-free marine waters. Zirku is an island oasis, providing a range of rich habitats for coastal and marine species. Zirku Island has been shaped by the forces of nature, and in turn, nature abounds there. With ongoing environmental management, Zirku Island will continue to be an important conservation treasure for the UAE. Its environmental future depends on us all.